The red warning lights flashed across the command bridge of the Stellar Wanderer. Captain Jinha stood at the main viewport, his hands clasped behind his back, watching Earth's sick atmosphere swirl below. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally run out of time. "Life support systems at full power, Captain," Chief Engineer Quan reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The massive colony ship hummed around them, its nuclear engines ready for the longest journey humanity had ever attempted. Jinha turned to face his crew. Dark circles marked their eyes. None of them had slept well in weeks. Who could, knowing they were about to leave their dying world behind? "Status report on the cryopods?" Jinha asked, his voice steady despite the weight in his chest. Medical Director Harin stepped forward, her white uniform spotless even in these final chaotic hours. "All 100,000 colonists are in stable cryosleep. Their vital signs are strong and the pods are functioning at optimal levels." The ship's AI displayed the numbers on the main screen, 100,000 souls, carefully chosen from Earth's remaining population. Scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, everyone needed to build a new home among the stars. "What about the situation down there?" Jinha nodded toward Earth. Quan pulled up the latest data. "It's worse than yesterday, Captain. The atmospheric processors are failing faster than predicted. The last cities have maybe 6 months of breathable air left." Jinha closed his eyes. For a moment, they had known this was coming for decades. Earth's resources had been stripped bare by centuries of overconsumption. The oceans were dead. The soil could barely grow food. The air itself was turning toxic. "Show me the target system again," he ordered. A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge, a star system 15,000 light-years away, their last hope. Surveys showed 3 potentially habitable planets orbiting a stable yellow star, similar to the sun that had given life to Earth. "The journey will take approximately 50 years at maximum speed," Quan explained. "With the new fusion drives and time dilation effects, we should arrive with over 90% of our fuel reserves intact." Harin stepped closer to the hologram. "The colonists will age only a few years in cryosleep. When we wake them, they'll be ready to build our new home." Jinha nodded. They had gone over these calculations thousands of times, but hearing them again helped steady his nerves. A new alert flashed on the main screen. It was time. "Message from Earth Command," the ship's AI announced. "They're ready for the farewell broadcast." Jinha straightened his uniform and faced the communication screen. The tired face of Earth's last president appeared before them. "Captain Jinha," the president said, "the final checks are complete. You have clearance for departure. The hopes of humanity go with you." "Thank you, Madam President. We won't fail." The president's eyes were wet with tears. "We've uploaded the complete history of Earth to your databases, our art, our music, our literature, everything we are. Carry it with you to the stars." "We will remember," Jinha promised. The screen split to show feeds from the remaining cities. Around the world, millions of faces looked up at the sky, watching the massive shape of the Stellar Wanderer in orbit. Many held candles, creating rivers of light in the darkening world. "It's time," Jinha said softly. He turned to his crew. "Take your positions for departure." Quan and Harin moved to their stations. Around the bridge, other crew members prepared for the most important launch in human history. The president's voice came one last time. "This is humanity's final message to the Stellar Wanderer. Remember us. Remember Earth, and if you find others out there among the stars, tell them our story. Tell them we refused to die quietly. Tell them we reached for the impossible." Jinha took his captain's chair. "Engine room, begin launch sequence." The ship's massive engines came to life, their power building slowly. On Earth, people watched as the largest ship ever built began to move. "Orbital path stable," Quan reported. "All systems green." "Medical bay reports all cryopods secure," Harin added. "The colonists are ready." Jinha took one last look at Earth, the blue and green world now wrapped in sickly brown clouds. This would be the last time any human saw their homeworld. Send the final message, he ordered. Harin opened the broadcast channel. Her voice was clear and strong as she spoke humanity's last words to the universe. This is the colony ship Stellar Wanderer. Carrying the seeds of Earth, we journey to the stars, seeking a new home. To any who find this message, humanity lived. Here, we created art and music. We loved and dreamed and built wonders. And when our world could no longer sustain us, we refused to surrender. Remember us. The message would repeat, broadcast by satellites left in Earth's orbit, a testament to humanity's existence. Course laid in for the target system, Quan announced. Ready for full power? Jinha gripped the arms of his chair. Everything humanity had left, their technology, their knowledge, their hopes, was packed into this single vessel. They couldn't fail. Engage main engines, he commanded. Take us to the stars. The Stellar Wanderer's engines flared to life, pushing the massive ship away from Earth's orbit. On the surface below, millions watched their last hope disappear into the darkness of space. Shrank behind them. Harin whispered an old Korean prayer for travelers. Quan checked and rechecked their course, and Jinha kept his eyes forward, toward the unknown that waited for them. They were leaving everything they had ever known, carrying the future of humanity in their hands. The journey ahead was longer than any human had ever attempted, but they had no choice. Earth was dying, and only by reaching for the impossible could humanity survive. The Stellar Wanderer accelerated, its powerful engines pushing it faster and faster. Soon Earth was just another point of light among the stars. The greatest journey in human history had begun. Humanity's fate now rested with 100,000 sleeping souls, 3 awake crew members, and 1 massive ship, all racing into the unknown darkness. Between the stars, the silence of space surrounded them, broken only by the steady hum of engines carrying them toward humanity's last hope. 20,000 years passed like a slow breath in the vastness of space. The galaxy had changed. Hundreds of alien species now formed the Galactic Confederation, sharing knowledge and resources across thousands of star systems. Admiral Zal of the Confederation Science Fleet stood on the bridge of his research vessel, staring at the blue-green world on the main screen. His silver scales reflected the soft light of the ship's controls as he studied the readings again. Impossible, he muttered. Run the scans again. His science officer, a tall being made of crystalline structures, moved her glowing hands over the controls. The scans are correct, Admiral. This is the source of the ancient broadcasts we've been tracking. The planet below them was Earth, though. None of them knew that name yet. What had once been a dying world was now alive again. Vast forests covered the continents. The oceans teemed with life. The atmosphere was clean and rich with oxygen. Play the broadcast again, Admiral Zal ordered. A scratchy voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them understood. The message had been repeating for thousands of years, broadcast by old satellites that still orbited the planet. Translation complete, the ship's computer announced. The message began again, this time in the common language of the Confederation. This is the colony ship Stellar Wanderer. Carrying the seeds of Earth, we journey to the stars seeking a new home. The bridge crew fell silent as they listened to humanity's last message. When it finished, Admiral Zal turned to his chief archaeologist, Professor Ven, a being whose species looked like floating clouds of golden light. What do we know about them? The Admiral asked. Professor Ven's form flickered with excitement. They called themselves humans. The satellites contained vast amounts of data about their civilization. They were ... remarkable. The professor projected images into the air, cities that once covered the planet, machines that reached for the stars, art that captured the beauty and pain of existence. They were dying, Ven continued. Their world was failing. So they built a ship, the largest ship we found record of, and launched their best and brightest into space. How many? Asked the Admiral. 100,000 colonists in suspended animation. 3 crew members awake to guide them. They were heading for a star system 15,000 light-years from here. The Admiral's scales shifted color as he thought. That journey Even with our current technology, it would be incredibly dangerous. With their level of advancement, it would have been nearly impossible. Yes, Ven agreed. We believe they never made it. The bridge crew worked for days, studying the old satellites and scanning the planet. They found ruins buried under 20,000 years of growth, the remains of humanity's cities and machines. But no signs of current civilization. A week into their study, a young officer made a discovery that shocked them all. "Admiral," she called out, "we found something in the satellite data. It's their genetic code." The crew gathered around her station as she displayed the human genome. The Admiral's scales turned pale as he understood what he was seeing. "They were adaptable," Professor Venn whispered. "Their genetic structure could change and evolve faster than any species we've encountered. They could have survived conditions that would kill most life forms. And yet they're gone," the Admiral said quietly. "An entire species that reached for the impossible and vanished among the stars." The Confederation spent months studying Earth. They declared it a protected historical site, a monument to a species that had faced extinction with courage and hope. The story of humanity spread across the galaxy, how they had tried to save themselves with one desperate journey into the unknown. Most believed the humans had died somewhere in the dark between stars. Others thought their ship had been destroyed by space storms or radiation. A few suggested they might have reached their destination but failed to establish a colony. None of them expected what happened. Next, the alert came from a border outpost at the edge of known space. Something massive had appeared out of the darkness. The outpost sent images that made Admiral Zoll's scales turn white with shock. It was a ship, but like no ship they had ever seen. Its hull seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. It was enormous, bigger than any vessel in the Confederation fleet. And it was broadcasting a message in the same ancient language they had found in Earth's orbit. "Translation," the Admiral ordered, his voice shaking. The message was short, but it changed everything they thought they knew about humanity. "This is Captain Jinha of the Stellar Wanderer. We have returned." The ship that had vanished into history, carrying humanity's last hope, had somehow survived. But it had changed, just as its crew must have changed. The simple metal vessel that left Earth had become something new, something that defied their understanding of what was possible. Admiral Zoll sent an urgent message to the Confederation Council. As he waited for their response, he stared at the image of the transformed ship. 20,000 years, he said softly. They were silent for 20,000 years. And now they return, not as refugees, but as something else entirely. Professor Venn's golden form pulsed with excitement. "The question isn't where they've been all this time, Admiral. The question is, what have they become?" The Stellar Wanderer hung at the edge of Confederation space, its crystalline hull shimmering with impossible energy, waiting to reveal the answer to that question. Humanity's ghost ship had returned from the stars, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans had been silent for so long. The age of humanity's return was about to begin. The Confederation's diplomatic vessel approached the transformed Stellar Wanderer with extreme caution. Through the viewport, Admiral Zoll could see the crystalline hull shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. The ship was alive. There was no other way to describe it. "We're receiving a transmission request," his communications officer announced. "They want to establish visual contact." Admiral Zoll straightened his ceremonial robes. "Accept the transmission." The main screen flickered to life, and for the first time in 20,000 years, the galaxy saw a human face. Captain Jinha looked both familiar and alien to the historical records they had studied. His eyes glowed with a subtle inner light, and faint lines of luminescence traced patterns under his skin. "Admiral Zoll," Jinha said, speaking perfect modern Confederation language. "Thank you for meeting us." The Admiral's scales rippled with surprise. "You know our language?" A slight smile crossed Jinha's face. "We've been watching, learning, and preparing for this moment. We needed to be ready." From behind Jinha, two more figures stepped into view. One was Chief Engineer Quan, whose body seemed to phase between solid and translucent forms. The other was Medical Director Harin, her presence somehow both gentle and overwhelming. "Your ship," Admiral Zoll said carefully. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen." "The Stellar Wanderer evolved with us," Quan explained, his voice carrying harmonic undertones. "We faced a choice early in our journey, adapt or die. We chose to adapt." Harin moved forward. "Our encounter with the quantum anomaly changed everything. It forced us to rebuild ourselves at the molecular level." The Admiral's scientific team was frantically recording everything. These humans had somehow merged with their technology, becoming something that existed between organic and artificial life. "The colonists?" Zoll asked. "The 100,000 in cryosleep?" "Safe," Jinha assured him. "They evolved too, though differently. Than we did. We woke them in stages, helped them adapt to what we had become." Through the viewport, parts of the Stellar Wanderer's hull became transparent, revealing vast internal chambers. Inside, humans moved about their daily lives, but they were humans transformed. Some glowed with internal energy, others shifted forms like living mercury, and still others seemed to fade in and out of normal space. "We've spent 20,000 years exploring the darkest corners of the galaxy," Jinha continued. "Learning, growing, preparing for what?" the Admiral asked. "To return home, to reclaim Earth, to take our place in the galaxy?" Jinha's eyes flared brighter. "But first, we needed to be strong enough that no one could ever threaten our existence again." Harin stepped forward. "We can process radiation as energy now. Our minds can interface directly with any technology. We can adapt to any environment. Within minutes." "The ship isn't just a vessel anymore," Quan added. "It's part of us. We are its crew, and it is our body. Together we can travel through space in ways your scientists haven't even theorized yet." Admiral Zoll tried to process what he was seeing. The lost humans hadn't just survived, they had transcended their original form. They had taken their greatest weakness, their need to adapt, and turned it into their greatest strength. "We've discovered things out there in the dark," Jinha said, his voice growing softer. "Things that would shatter your understanding of reality. We've learned secrets that the universe hasn't shared with anyone else." The Admiral found his voice. "Are you still human?" Jinha smiled, and in that smile was something ancient and new at the same time. "We are what humanity was always meant to become. We carry the same fire, the same determination that made us reach for the stars when our world was dying." Suddenly, alarms blared on both ships. A massive energy signature had appeared near Earth. "Ah," Jinha said calmly. "Right on schedule." The Admiral's crew reported in panic as more ships appeared, hundreds of them, then thousands. Each one was unique, a different evolution of the original Stellar Wanderer design. They emerged from full points in space that shouldn't have been possible. "What is this?" Zoll demanded. "Did you think we spent 20,000 years doing nothing?" Harin asked gently. "We found suitable worlds. We seeded them with life from Earth. We created safe havens for humanity to grow and evolve in different ways. These are our children," Quan explained. "The colonies we established across the galaxy. Each one took a different path of evolution. But all of them remembered Earth. All of them remembered who they were. The ships took position around Earth, not in a threatening formation, but in a pattern that seemed to pulse with shared purpose. Millions of evolved humans returning to their ancestral home. We're not here to conquer," Jinha assured the Admiral. "We're here to rejoin the galaxy, to share what we've learned, to help all species grow beyond their current limitations." The Admiral watched as the fleet of impossible ships surrounded Earth, each one a testament to human determination and adaptability. The species that had fled their dying world had returned as masters of evolution itself. 20,000 years ago, we left Earth carrying humanity's last hope, Jinha said. Today, we return carrying humanity's future. And this time, we're here to stay. The Stellar Wanderer's hull pulsed with light, sending a signal to the fleet. As one, the ships began to sing, a harmony of technology and consciousness that made the very fabric of space resonate. The ghost ship had returned from the stars, but it hadn't returned alone. It had brought with it a new chapter in human history, one that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity's 20,000 years of silence had ended. And now they had something to say. The Confederation Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from 1,000 species gathered to hear humanity's story. Captain Jinha stood at the center of the great hall, his transformed body casting subtle patterns of light across the marble floor. "Show them," Harin said softly from beside him. Jinha nodded and raised his hand. The air above them transformed into a three-dimensional map of their journey. The council members watched in awe as the story of humanity's 20,000 years of silence began to unfold. 3 months into our journey, Jinha began, we encountered something that changed everything. A tear in space-time unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The map showed the stellar wanderer approaching a strange distortion in space. Even now, 20,000 years later, the memory made Jinha's light patterns flicker. We had 2 choices. He continued. Try to go around it, which would have used up too much fuel, or go through it. We chose to go through. Quan stepped forward, his form shifting like quicksilver. The tear changed the laws of physics around us. Our ship began to break down. The cryopods started to fail. We were facing death. That's when we made our first evolution, Harin added. It wasn't a choice, it was survive or die. Our bodies began to adapt at the molecular level, learning to exist in this impossible space. The map showed the stellar wanderer transforming, its metal hull becoming crystalline, its systems merging with the crew. The council members watched in stunned silence. The colonists were dying in their pods, Jinha said. So we connected with them, joined our minds with theirs, taught their bodies how to change, how to survive. Images appeared of the first transformations, humans becoming beings of light, energy, and possibility. Some council members turned away, unable to watch such fundamental change. But that was just the beginning, Quan said. The tear had given us something unexpected, knowledge. We could see patterns in space-time that no one else could see. We found ways to travel that should be impossible. And the map expanded, showing the paths they had taken through the galaxy. Not straight lines, but complex curves through dimensions that the council couldn't even perceive. We found worlds, Harin continued, planets that could support life. On each one we left some of our people. Let them evolve in their own ways. Some became beings of pure energy. Others learned to shape matter with their thoughts. Each colony took a different path. Jinha gestured, and the map showed hundreds of worlds where humanity had seeded itself, each developing its own unique form of evolution. But we never forgot Earth, he said. We never forgot who we were. Every colony, every evolution carried the same human spirit, the drive to survive, to grow, to become more than we are. A council member, a being made of living fire, spoke up. Why did you stay hidden for so long? Why not contact us when we first found Earth? Jinha's expression grew serious. Because we needed to be ready. We saw the future, thousands of possible futures. We knew that humanity's return would change everything. We had to make sure we could protect ourselves and help others. Help us? Another council member asked. How? Quan smiled, his form stabilizing. We've learned secrets about the universe that your sciences haven't discovered yet. Ways to harness energy, to travel between stars and moments, to heal worlds that are dying, just as Earth was dying when we left. We've also learned about threats, Harin added. Things moving in the darkness between galaxies. Ancient dangers that will someday threaten all life. We've spent thousands of years preparing for them. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. Jinha raised his hand for silence. We don't come as conquerors, he said firmly. We come as teachers, as allies. What we've learned, we want to share. What we've become, we can help others achieve, if they choose it. To demonstrate, Jinha connected with the chamber's technology. The lights dimmed, and suddenly every being present could feel what it was like to be human, the determination, the adaptability, the unquenchable drive to survive and grow. This is who we are, Jinha said softly. We are the children of a dying world who refuse to die. We are the ones who turned our greatest crisis into our greatest strength. We are humanity, and we have returned to help build a better galaxy. The council members sat in stunned silence, processing what they had learned. The quiet species that had vanished into space had become something beyond their imagination. The colonies are returning to Earth, Juan explained. Not to live there. We've evolved beyond needing a single world, but to remember where we came from and to help Earth become something new. A center of learning, Harin added. A place where any species can come to learn how to transcend their limitations. A symbol of hope for all those who face extinction. Jinha looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. 20,000 years ago, we left Earth carrying humanity's last hope. Today, we return carrying hope for every species. In the galaxy, the map above them showed the full scope of humanity's journey, the worlds they'd seeded, the discoveries they'd made, the evolution they'd undergone. It was a story of survival, of transformation, of refusing to accept the limitations of reality itself. The silence is over, Jinha concluded. Now, let us show you what humanity has become. The chamber erupted in questions, but Jinha simply smiled. They had all the time in the universe to explain. After 20,000 years, humanity was ready to share its greatest discovery. That the only true limits were the ones you accepted. The revelation of humanity's journey was just the beginning. The real story was about to unfold. The morning sun rose over a transformed Earth. Jinha stood on the shore of what had once been the Pacific Ocean, his feet touching his homeworld soil for the first time in 20,000 years. Behind him, Harin and Quan watched the waves, their evolved forms shimmering in the dawnlight. It still feels like home, Harin said softly, her voice carrying the harmonics of 1,000 stars. Above them, the sky was filled with ships from every human colony. Each vessel was unique. Some were living crystal like the Stellar Wanderer, others were pure energy, and some seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. They had all come home. The terraforming is complete, Quan reported, his form solidifying. Briefly, Earth's ecosystems are now stable. The damage our ancestors did has been fully healed. Jinha nodded. In the weeks since their return, they had restored Earth to more than its former glory. The oceans teemed with new life. The forests grew with intelligence and purpose. The air was clean and charged with possibilities. The first learning center is ready, Harin said, gesturing to a structure that seemed to grow from the ground. Itself. It was built from living crystal and thought, a place where other species could come to learn humanity's secrets. Already, ships from the Confederation were arriving. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy, drawn by the promise of evolution and transcendence. They came to learn what humanity had discovered in their long silence. Show me the first class, Jinha requested. A holographic window appeared, showing the interior of the learning center. Beings of all forms, crystal, energy, organic, and more, sat in a chamber that adapted to each of their needs. Harin's projection was teaching them the first steps of controlled evolution. They learn quickly, Quan observed. Some of them have already begun to change. Jinha smiled. This was why they had waited so long to return. Not just to perfect their own evolution, but to be ready to guide others. The galaxy was facing challenges that could only be overcome through transformation. A new ship appeared in the sky, the original Stellar Wanderer, now a living legend. It had been transformed into a museum, preserving the story of humanity's great journey. Inside, visitors could experience the moment of first evolution, feel the terror and triumph of becoming something more than human. The ancient threats are moving, Quan reported suddenly. His sensors, now part of his evolved form, could detect things across vast distances. The darkness between galaxies is stirring. We're ready, Jinha assured him. That's why we built the network. He gestured, and another display appeared, showing the true scope of humanity's preparation. Every colony world they had seeded was connected by paths through dimensions only they could see. Each world was a fortress, a sanctuary, a place where life could evolve beyond the reach of the coming darkness. The first wave of students is graduating, Harin announced proudly. They're already teaching others. The knowledge spreads. In the Learning Center, beings who had once been limited by physical forms were learning to exist as pure consciousness. Others were discovering how to bend space and time, to communicate across galaxies, to transform matter with a thought. And the Earth Project? Jinha asked. Quan's form rippled with excitement. The planetary consciousness is awakening. Earth itself is evolving, just as we did. Soon it will be able to communicate with other living worlds. This had been their greatest gift to their homeworld, the ability to evolve itself. Earth was becoming a living entity, aware and purposeful. The planet that had given birth to humanity was following its children into transcendence. A group of Confederation scientists approached them on the beach, their forms already showing signs of early evolution. Jinha welcomed them warmly. "We have questions," one of them said, their crystalline form pulsing with curiosity. "That's good," Jinha replied. "Questions are the first step to evolution. What would you like to know? Why did humanity succeed where others failed? What made you different?" Jinha looked out over the ocean, remembering the desperate launch 20,000 years ago. "We refused to accept extinction. When faced with death, we chose to become something new. That's the secret, the willingness to let go of what you are to become what you could be." The scientists absorbed this, their forms shifting as new understanding changed them at the quantum level. Above them, more ships arrived, refugees from dying worlds, species facing their own extinction, beings seeking to transcend their limitations. Earth welcomed them all, just as the cosmos had welcomed humanity in their darkest hour. "The silence is over," Harin said, watching the new arrivals. "Now the teaching begins." Quan's sensors detected something vast stirring in deep space. "They're coming. The Ancient Ones have noticed us." "Let them come," Jinha said calmly. "We've spent 20,000 years preparing for them. Humanity isn't just ready to fight. We're ready to show them a better way." The sun climbed higher, casting light on a world reborn. Earth was no longer just humanity's cradle, it had become a beacon for all life seeking to evolve. The planet that had once been dying now pulsed with infinite potential. Jinha looked at his transformed hands, remembering the human he had once been. They had come so far, changed so much, but the core of what made them human remained: the determination to survive, to grow, to reach for the impossible. 20,000 years of silence, he said softly. And now every voice in the galaxy will sing a new song. Above them, the ships of humanity's children filled the sky with light. Below, Earth itself pulsed with awakening consciousness. And in the learning centers, the future of all life was taking shape. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors or refugees, but as teachers, guardians, and guides to a future without limits. Their long silence had ended, and their true purpose was just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had planned.